the opportunity for people to navigate to other areas is limited. I'm also not a believer of if you have failed here, then we must, like this whole approach of enterprise. We're going to teach people how to start a business, how to manage a business.
Yes.
Not everybody is crafted for business.
True.
Not everybody is crafted to run a business or to start a business. There are those of us who will be exceptional at running other people's business, not our business. Yeah. So if you were to ask me, we need to have, in business we call it pivots.
Yes.
So we need to have multiple outlets that if by the time I get to senior 4, academic ability is not my strength. So I can't memorize, it's not my strength. My strength is in working with my hands, doing stuff. Maybe I don't need to go to senior 6. I just need to go into that place called a technical college, or if music is my passion, if music is my passion, if sports is my passion, I need to take that direction. Probably I don't even have to go to senior 1. Yeah. I don't have to take the whole academic space. And it's that recognition that education is not about you being in this track called school.
Yeah. It's a CEO Bench. My name is Eddie Okila, and this is House of Talent Television. Welcome to the program this week. I know all of you guys are wondering, is change time from 11 to 12? What's going on? Well, sometimes we make an exception for the guest. And the guest coming back on the show today on part 2. He was on the show about a week ago. 16 years or so at Makerere University, the so-called the Great University of Africa. Once the greatest university of Africa. We don't know whether we're still there, but he's been on that street and living there, going to refactory is where he is now at Clark International University. We'd like to take this moment to welcome Mr. Michael Niyitegeka back on the show on part 2, while we discuss rethinking education and of course repositioning education for purpose. Michael, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Eddie. Pleasure being able to be back. And thank you for inviting me. I hope that is an endorsement that there was a lot of value in what I shared.
Yes, there was a lot of value in what you shared, obviously, and people loved it, and so many people voted and says, "Can we have a part 2 of Michael coming back to the program?" And we want to just discuss a few things that you touched very, very, deeply last time, or you scratch on the surface, and this time around we want to focus on the CEO Bench, looking for people on the top. You were on the top at Makerere University, and you were handling quite a number of things then, and you left, and you went to, family, staying home for sometimes, doing your own things, and then before we know it, you were at Refactory.
Yeah.
Or at Clark International University and doing the same thing again, but this time around from a different perspective altogether, skilling people. Now, the CEO Bench looks at people who have been on the top, are on the top, or are going to the top, and when they are coming back from the top, they are managing change. What kind of change are they managing? How do we deal with this change? So we discussed this quite a bit on the CEO bench. Just basically give us a learning of, picking from you guys who have been up there, done that. What lesson can we pick from you? How do we position ourselves to keep learning from you guys going forward? And so the show today is focusing on the education system and the repurposing of education system, as you would like to put it normally. So to start with, Michael, our education system that we know, that the British left with us, seems to be teaching us only how to operate the machine and not to create the machine itself. Is that the case?
The easier part is to blame.
Okay.
Because blame takes away responsibility.
Okay.
And for me, it's like I said, it's the easier part.
Yeah.
The harder part is to do it different.
Yeah.
Because once you've done with the blaming, then what next?
Yeah.
Because we can blame everybody else you really think is extremely critical.
Yeah.
But what next? And I think for me that's the most important thing. So has the education system, or what the British left us, has it evolved? Has it given us the impetus for us to reflect and rethink what we need to do?
Yeah.
I think yes, there is need for us, and probably the time has long gone, if I could put it that way.
Yeah.
We should have done that maybe about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Fit for purpose.
Yeah.
And I'll give examples where I think we blame ourselves. We got to know that we have oil in this country in I can't quite remember the time when we had the first discovery pronounced.
Yeah, it's actually believed that it was known in the Obote one.
Exactly,
yes,
exactly.
In 1960, I think it was 68.
And until 2000 something,
Yeah.
I think before I left Makere, we didn't have any program for oil and
Around
gas.
oil, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
But we've known this thing
We
for
knew.
all this long. Yeah.
We knew that there was oil.
Yeah.
We knew probably going to be an opportunity.
Yeah.
We knew these opportunities required expertise.
Yeah.
But we never acted. Like even when entities like Talo and that started doing a bit of going beyond just discoveries to setting up, it took us another 10 years to have a degree program set up.
Wow.
So do I want to still blame the colonialist?
Certainly not. I mean,
Not.
It's something we want to do here.
Yeah, because technically what should have happened is if you don't have the competence or the capacity, is hire the people to come and set up the program for you.
Yeah.
Equip you, give you the skill, then they take off.
Yeah.
So our inability to move from where we are to where we should have been, I can't entirely blame it on the colonialists. They gave us a handle.
Yeah.
The question is, do you stay onto that handle or do you use that handle to move to the next level?
Yeah.
That's the first bit. The other example that I always give is, so when I had an opportunity, when I was still in Makerere University, we built our IT programs based on what you call the Association of Computing Machinery Framework, which is a US-based framework.
Yeah.
Now, that US-based framework identifies 5 computing disciplines. It identifies computer science, information technology, information systems, computer engineering, software engineering. These are 5 disciplines in computing.
Which is very important. They're the core.
Okay, so they are tracks, they're actually professions, each of them.
Yeah.
Now, each of these 5 is an industry in the US.
And for us here, each of them is not.
Each of these 5
yeah.
is an industry.
Yeah.
Now, we picked that framework, brought it here, and implemented it wholesome.
As one unit.
No,
Yeah.
as 5 different
as 5
programs.
different units. Yes.
Now, when you look at the way our industry is structured in the region, not just Uganda, Africa, I don't think you have 5 distinct industries. What is happening is that each of these guys that graduate from university then end up and converge into a place called software engineering. So all these guys are converging into something they call software engineering. Now what that means is that you are educating people, convergence point, but yet you are, because they are trained as professionals. It's
in each discipline.
In each discipline, it's trained as a profession. Now because of that, that convergence, then people get disappointed because the opportunities have not necessarily been IT, information systems. Actually, my career has merged 2, information systems and information technology into one.
Wow.
So that for me is some of the things that we need to. What do we want our people to do for us in our market? How is the structure? The person who has trained as an electrical engineer, where are they working? If you're trained as an agricultural engineer, I come from Fort Portal where we have tea estates, and one of the challenges they have is finding agricultural engineers on the estate.
Well, yet we're producing these guys.
They're graduating.
They're graduating.
They're graduating.
We're channeling them out.
So those are the disparities that we have in our ecosystem.
Wow.
Now, and all this requires us to be very intentional in spending time in industry to understand what is industry looking for.
Which is what you call fit for the purpose.
Fit for purpose, yes.
Right. Michael, that said, by the way, I just wanna, is that a question of us I'm just listening to you from the 5 pillars of the computing
discipline,
disciplines, and then you're saying you picked it from the US, you brought these things here, and you trained each of these people, and they went and converged in one thing called software engineering.
Well, those are the opportunities.
Yes, which is available.
Yeah,
that's what the market has offered for them.
A couple of years ago, we had guys who were doing networking.
Yes.
Networking was one of the... Okay, you didn't have a degree you didn't require a degree for you to be able to do cabling.
Yes.
But you see, that has been replaced by Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Or yes, I can.
So some of us who did CCNA, we are no longer.
Yeah, you no longer need to do trunking and all kind of stuff.
Basically, I'm obsolete. I mean,
to an extent, you're still relevant.
Yeah.
But probably, what used to be extremely very important is changing very fast.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
In terms of the roles. Now, does that require a degree? Probably not. It requires a diploma, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Fit for purpose. We think this thing and put it for the purpose that the industry is looking for.
Exactly.
Now, that said, Michael, why is it that it's taking us so long? We want to borrow from you. You were, in university and still really in the university. Of course, this time around, we're seeing you talk about skilling more than it was, at the great University of Makerere of East Africa. The question here, therefore, is how come it's taking us so long and we're not seeing it? Is it because the people in academia are not seeing it? Is it because of the policies that we have from the government?
I think the bigger challenge is who is in the conversations.
Yeah.
That is the bigger challenge.
Okay.
I always ask, our children have gone through our education system, primary. You look at the amount of content they study, like in social studies, Nyamwiru, Nyamwamba, Moanga, those things.
Yes.
One time I was traveling with my daughter from Fort Portal, and we get to Mitiana, and I say, hey, we shall see Lake Wamala, and it's like, wow, very close here, there is a big hole. If you go there in Mubende, you will disappear because there is Walumbe. And I'm like, sweetheart, I wish you knew that is yeah. Let me not
So
disappoint you.
At your level, you're hearing this thing, and the reality is striking you in the face.
Because I mean, when we're studying it, of course,
Yeah.
you used to think there's a guy who is going underground and he's moving.
Yeah.
Of course, it made a lot of sense then.
Yeah.
But the question is, so what do I want to have my daughter, who is in primary,
Yeah.
deal with? Because yes, and we can argue that maybe because she's in Kampala, she's exposed a little bit more.
Yeah.
But even the guy who is up country,
Yeah.
the guy who is in the village school, how can I make them become socially responsible? Because that's the essence of social studies, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you have socially responsible citizens being groomed.
Yeah. Which in tandem will give you what we're looking for.
Exactly,
now. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So in this era that we are in, because I'm sure there was a time when belief in other gods or other powers was very important.
Yeah.
The god of the rain, the god of the sun, the god of whatever.
But the question here is, Michael, just to interject, I don't see how relevant that is, because it's not a reality of things. You know, it's not a reality. It doesn't help me with. I mean, it's where does it fit?
Probably,
in the
Eddie, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Probably there was a time
Yeah.
when that was relevant.
Yes. Yeah.
Probably there was a time when that was relevant.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
We can talk about the Uganda areas
Yeah.
and how it was built from Mombasa to here.
Yeah.
But where is it? You get it?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't learn how Uganda came into existence.
Yeah.
We definitely need to have the history
Yeah.
around how the Riri came into
Into
Uganda
system, yeah, yeah.
and that whole thing. But the broader aspect is we should be asking ourselves, at the end of 7 years
Yeah.
of introduction to social studies,
Yeah.
are these guys socially responsible? Do they understand the value of elections?
Yeah.
Do they understand the value of boundaries?
Yeah.
Do they understand the value of what are those things that every person needs to have?
Yeah.
So that by the time they go to secondary school, because they're now teenagers,
Yeah.
they have another level of
Understanding,
thinking
yeah.
and understanding.
Yeah.
That would be, that's how to approach it. Same as, let's say, science. What are those things that they can relate with?
Yeah.
I know they're making sense
Yes.
of stuff. But yeah, so man, I can go on and on.
No, it's actually very good. This is CEO Bench. We are talking to Mr. Michael Niyitegeka about repurposing education to fit the need of our times. You know, we are talking about these things and look like, you know, it's not serious, but these are really very serious stuff. You have a son, a daughter. How do they reason? Given the education you are now giving them right now, how are they reasoning with whatever they have right now? Forget about COVID-19 coming and setting us apart and, you know, putting us like miles way back from where we were. Maybe COVID has actually just presented us opportunity to be able to rethink about some of the things that Michael is talking about. And Michael, just before we take a break, I want to just, you know, pose this question to you. I know I wanted you to answer it, but where are we not getting it right? And how can we get back to these things that you've highlighted to actually start saying, you know what, these are the things we need to do? Because we have some really good brains in academia space. And we have some really, Uganda has some of the most educated people on planet Earth, I'm told.
Well,
Yes.
I'm not sure we
The
have
brains,
the most.
I mean, the
most
northern
educated-
part of the people from the northern part of Uganda had there are so many educated people, really serious degrees, and now we're beginning to see some of them in central Uganda and some of them in western Uganda. How come we're not taking advantage of this?
Yeah. So education is positioned from the value of education has largely been based on academic ability.
Yes.
So ability to pass the exam.
Yeah.
That has been the basis of education,
Yeah.
if I could put it that way. So the person who is able to pass the exam is rated the most brilliant. Education hasn't looked back to say, can we also give an opportunity to the person who is able to do? And I'll give an example. One time, we wanted to, there was an opening at Makerere University in the Faculty of IT. And that opening was for a junior, a teaching assistant, which is, the requirement is first degree. Now for me, in our wisdom, we were like, okay, we are looking for somebody who has demonstrated ability to pass on knowledge. The requirement is to become a teaching assistant is you need to have a first class. Well, it's really based on academics. So we advertise, we sit at the faculty, and I make a case for a young man who had invested quite a lot when he was in year 2. He was teaching his colleagues, like he was running seminars for students. And for me, right there, I was like, this guy, he has the ability to join the academia because he has the heart to teach. So we make a recommendation to appointments board, and it was rejected. And the condition was, for you to become a teaching assistant, you don't need experience.
You need academic qualification.
The person who was given the opportunity was from another university who had a first class
degree.
And yeah, I'll leave it there.
So how does that make you feel, like, Michael, when you probably you're seeing the difference between the reality and the deception, that all of them are placed in close proximity for you to see it, and how do you go ahead to convince, to say, look, this young man may not even ever get a first class degree, but the impact of what he's already doing at this level is greater than the impact of the person who has a first class degree? Is there a case like that?
He missed first class by not such a huge margin, because he had an upper second, which is like second to first class. But the fact that appointments board threw this out, and guess what this guy did? This guy went and set up a training academy in Wandegea. And we were sending our students to go and do internship in his academy. and he met me and told me, he says, in his first cohort, he made a turnover of over, I think, close to 100 million. And a net profit of about 70 million.
Wow.
I'm like,
which the colleague of the first class degree from another university will take him so long to probably publish so many papers to try and get it.
Of course. But you see, that's where sometimes, and I don't blame university, because you see, universities world over take a very long time. Like I said, universities are like elephants. They need to turn here. They will first go to Kisimenti, turn, and then come back. By the time they get to Kisimenti, it's 10 years.
The road to come back is 10 years.
By the time they come back here,
it's 20 years.
20 years. This place has already moved to another point. And that's universities world over. The difference is that we're probably not copying up in universities like in Europe or Canada. I had an opportunity to visit a university in Canada. And they have already created positions of professors of practice. So, Eddie, based on the work that you're doing right now here, you would be appointed a professor of practice in the mass comm department because you are in practice. You don't need a first class degree to go and teach.
Which is better than the person who is teaching without practice.
Exactly. Now, when you look at our education structure, you, other than the teacher, secondary, primary education, at university level, you get a first class, upper second, you're the one who is retained. You go ahead and do a master's, you go ahead and do a PhD, but you've had limited practice. in secondary and primary, the people that have failed to make it to university are the ones who end up in education.
Technical schools, yes.
And the technical schools.
Yeah.
And there is the imbalance, yes. If I could put it that way.
Yes.
So this guy goes into education not because it's a desire.
Yeah.
It's because that's
He
what
was
is
pushed there
available.
because he failed somewhere. The education system.
I wouldn't want to, because the education system defined you as less academic qualified to join university.
Yeah.
But does that make you less competent in other fields? Probably not.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. Now, to change that system is not something that we're going to dream of.
Yeah.
Like it's going to happen. And so opportunities like Refactory
Yeah.
are there to demonstrate that we can actually remodel. Now, for me, the advantage I have is the agility. I am agile.
Yes, the flexibility
as Refactory.
Things, yes.
So, what is industry looking for?
Yeah.
I change it.
Yeah.
Now, my hope is that I then have the ability to infect, positive infection here.
Yes, yes.
I have the ability to infect the education system to begin rethinking some of the stuff they are doing.
Wow.
And that is happening world over. That's happening world over. And we can coexist. We can coexist and say, okay, you do your main academic stuff, I'll help you in the skilling side, preparing people for the world of work.
Yeah.
By the time they realize that they can actually do both, like I said, they'll first go, 20 years,
come back. Years, which is 40 years.
Well, 10.
Yes,
40 years.
Yes, the CEO Bench will go for a break, and when we come back, we will be looking deeply into the question of you failed in school, but you are more excellent at practice, and you are better than those who got the first class. And of course, the studies are quite very clear. We've seen these people who are academically very bright. They say he's very bright, but they are walking and drinking, and they are mad on the streets. And the one who was never academically very sound in class is actually running a factory, or is running an industry, or they've built a conglomerate of business, structures, whatever we call it. That in itself is a disparity that needs a very big discussion to happen. And that's what that's what Michael Nyetegeka is helping us to understand. It's also important to know that Michael has 16 years under his belt as a man who has been, teaching, but also at some point he was directly involved in setting up exams at Makerere University. And of course, who better discuss this when he's talking about Refactory, reskilling people. We're live on Facebook, we're live on Twitter, and of course we're live on YouTube. If you're finding any problem on YouTube, on Facebook, please dive to Twitter, and please send us your kisses and disses. We want to hear from you. What are your comments about the education system and rethinking about the education system to actually fit the purpose that Michael is talking about? We'll be right back after this break. This is the CEO Bench.
An army of sheep led by a lion will beat an army of lions led by a sheep. That's a pay.
Yes.
So let's be very honest about this thing, and really understand that you need to understand where you lie and where you fall. So it's very important for us to understand that leadership has to be definitive. You can't be laissez-faire. It has to be definitive. You have to be strong, just like a lion. When a lion meets an elephant or a buffalo or whatever, the buffalo and all these animals run away. And yet, by the way, they are stronger than the lion. They are heavier than the lion. They are more intelligent than the lion. They are taller than the lion. They run away. The lion, because of its attitude, it sees lunch. That is a leader.
Mr. Tony Trump, thank you very much for coming to the CEO Bench. And I want to ask you, so if you were elected the President of the Republic of Uganda today, what would be your first State of Nation address? Now, as you look into the camera and close the show.
I think my first State of the Nation address would first of all to I think I'll just close it there.
Welcome back from that break. My name is Eddie Okila and this is CEO Bench. In the studio is Michael Nyitegeka, who we're talking to about repurposing education for, the job market in Uganda. I mean, you can talk about Kenya, you can talk about Tanzania, you can talk about any other country in Africa, but we want to focus here in Uganda. And this particular CEO Bench is talking about how do we, reorganize our education system to basically fit and start focusing on more skilling of people and making sure that everyone that is out there is able to get a job at some point. Michael, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
I just want to take you straight to this question we've always had before. You've seen, these people who high school, primary school, in high school, they were always excellent. They always teach you. You don't understand SST, they are very good when the teacher finishes class like this, then they take you from that. Burning books at night, they were always, they say they read 1 week to the exam.
Yeah.
And they always, win. They're always on top of the class. And then, they come out from secondary school, Namilengo College, Buddha Junior, or wherever we're going. And then the next thing we know, they're out of the university, and then they're back on the streets. And then you meet the person and say, but this guy was the brightest guy in my class, or this lady was the brightest lady in my class, and they just don't look it. Then you find a guy who was like always the third grade person in class. Okay, somehow in senior 4 actually got the 4th grade, and then they said you cannot continue to senior 6. Yes, and then you find this person is running a very serious business. They said, I went through this technical school, then from this technical school, I went to university, but when I went to university, I went and studied this thing, so I'm not doing this. In fact, I went to university much later, after 10 years of me practicing and working. And then you start to say, you begin to have this question in your mind, what went wrong? Why do we have this difference? You are in the skilling space with Refactory, but also you are now more qualified to talk about this thing. Can you help us understand why we have this situation?
Yeah, like I said, our education system is one way, academic ability.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity for people to navigate to other areas is limited. I'm also not a believer of if you have failed here, then we must, like this whole approach of enterprise. We're going to teach people how to start a business, how to manage a business.
Yes.
Not everybody is crafted for business.
True.
Not everybody is crafted to run a business or to start a business. There are those of us who will be exceptional at running other people's business, not our business.
Yeah.
So if you were to ask me, we need to have, in business we call it pivots.
Yes.
So we need to have multiple outlets that if by the time I get to senior 4, academic ability is not my strength. So I can't memorize, it's not my strength. My strength is in working with my hands, doing stuff. Maybe I don't need to go to senior 6. I just need to go into that place called a technical college, or if music is my passion, if music is my passion, if sports is my passion, I need to take that direction. Probably I don't even have to go to senior 1.
Yeah.
I don't have to take the whole academic space.
Yeah.
It's that recognition that education is not about you being in this track called school.
Yeah.
That education is about making you a responsible citizen that can contribute to the well-being of the economy because you're productive. That's the essence of education. Now, having those multiple outlets then helps as many people as possible begin to see value in education. It doesn't matter which areas you're tracking in. There are certain fundamentals that you need to have. You need to learn how to live with other people. You need to learn how to work with other people. We then make those the foundational requirements. because at any one time, those things are going to be critical.
Yeah.
They're going to be necessary. So if you approach it from that direction, then you'll find people sailing in systems. They don't have to. I met a historian who is working with Facebook as a software engineer. But his first degree is history, his second degree is economics. He's never studied software engineering.
But he's working with Facebook as
He's working with Facebook as a software engineer. So what I'm trying to say is that, and these verticals are possible. It's not rocket science. We just need to recognize them. That's number one. Number two is that there is a lot of investment that is required to educate us, the parents, to think beyond law, accounting, medicine, engineering. We need to think beyond that education is not a vertical.
What we call the linear vertical.
That education is, like I said, making me a responsible citizen who contributes to the well-being, to the development of my economy, of my country. Now, whether I'm a musician, whether I'm a guy who is making noise by the roadside, the question is, do I have the awareness that I have a responsibility to contribute to the well-being of this country? Doesn't matter whether you studied physics or not. That should be the foundational stuff. Now, if those things are taken care of, then this guy who is super brilliant, but struggles to find relevance, and because he struggles, probably his wire has gone nuts. Also shows that they don't have to go through. I mean, we've seen people who have gone through education because
the world, the society demand for you to go through and to be able to approve
at the age of 20, because the system there recognizes that their mental ability is far above the average or even close to the super. So their ability to process knowledge is way above. So they are not taken, you must go through the 3 terms of school. No. Are you there? Do these things make sense to you quickly? Can we test you at the next level? Yes. Can we test you at the next level? Yes. Can we test you at the next level? That level of flexibility,
you're saying, needs to be there.
Needs to be there. Needs to be there. But for that to happen, requires leadership.
What kind of leadership are we looking at, Michael?
Leadership that appreciates that people cannot be a box. That you must do 7 years of primary, 4 years of O-level, 2 years of A-level, 3 years of university.
Or 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. That leadership that appreciates that humanity is diverse, that humanity has a multiplicity of capabilities, but making sure that each of us can thrive and strive in the environment. Now, then what leadership does is create the environment. That's why you don't need to have done biology for you to be a nurse in the US, because they have come to appreciate nursing is care. It's not human medicine. It's not about understanding the chemical composition of no. It's understanding that nursing is about care.
And care doesn't require you to have so much.
No.
In biology.
It's understanding that so you'll understand the human body side. You don't have a degree this side. No. Everybody there.
In the same hole.
Let's see.
Wow. This is the CEO Bench, and we're talking to Mr. Michael Niyitegeka, who is from Refactory, and of course, the man at Clark International University, and of course the country, regional country manager for ICDL,
Yeah.
which we always want to know what it means.
So ICDL is a digital certification program,
Okay.
and it started in Europe, and in Europe it was called the European Computer Driving License.
Yes.
In Europe, when it started, the argument was you need a license to drive a car.
Yeah.
And so they also, the British Computer Society,
Yes.
then also decided to say, wait, you also need probably close to a license to be able to use a computer.
Yes.
And so they called it the European Computer Driving License.
Yes, yes.
But because it's now gone beyond Europe,
Yeah.
it's now called the International Digital Skills Standard.
Yeah.
The ICDL used to be the International Computer Driving License.
Yeah.
And our primary focus is to equip people with skills to use, but they never go beyond Microsoft Word.
Yeah. And playing music.
If they're good.
Yes, on desktop.
Because once you go to playing music, then you can navigate applications.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
Or PowerPoint. The people who they struggle with PowerPoint.
Yeah.
They just pick text and dump it there, but they don't realize that there's a science, there's an art around having captivating.
Wow.
So that's what we really focus on.
Okay.
In a number of countries, this standard has been made a framework
Yeah.
of skilling. Rwanda, Kenya, Egypt, Nigeria, they've made ICDL a standard. So anybody who is getting into the world of work, you need to have this as your standard.
Wow. Well, I mean, Michael, thank you very much for so far. The first part of the show has been really very interesting. I have a couple of questions here for you on the Messenger, and I will start from a gentleman who says, Edio Killer, thank you very much for bringing Michael to the program. Part 2, I'm loving it. I waited for this moment to come. I've always had issues with an education system in Uganda and in most parts of Africa. We don't seem to focus on skilling. When you're in the African continent, you never see the gap until the day you step out of the continent and you go to another continent. That's when you realize it's all about skilling. I live and work in Germany. Germany is about technical skill. Germany is about skilling people. There is no job you're going to get in Germany when you don't have skills. When they say is an engineer or you are an engineer who can do. I'm an engineer based in Germany, but my engineering is having a lot of repurposing and rethinking right now. I'm even back in school because some of the things they are able to do, I'm not able to do. Michael is spot on. Thank you very much. I'm a Ugandan. I live and work in Nigeria. Okay, I move in between Germany and Uganda. Again, the same thing Michael is talking about is true. The whole of Europe is about skilling. They will never give you, you'll never find an engineer or a doctor who cannot create or invent something. So we need to really think about our education system. And the question I have for Michael, how come it's taking Uganda, for example, such a long time with all these brilliant brains we have in Uganda?
To bring that guy in and use that guy as a basis for your training, it takes humility. So the reason we are where we are is who, let's go to the different entities or the different authorities. If you go to the National Council of Higher Education, brilliant people there, majority of them have come straight from education, mainstream education or universities. They are managing National Council of Higher Education.
Yeah.
You would want to see a lot of industry play there, because then they would inform whether these programs are fit for purpose.
Yeah.
The same as probably I haven't had an opportunity to be at the National Curriculum Development Center, so I can't ably talk about it. But it's more or less like what we are seeing with some of these education programs that are coming through. So my starting point is humility.
As a country, we are not humble, or as professors.
Well, I don't want to say as a country. Remember I said about leadership?
Yeah.
It is that leadership. To say, okay, can we sit and work out something that works for both of us?
Yeah.
Because at the end of it all, I don't want the person who has studied in Uganda not to be able to compete favorably with somebody who has studied in the UK.
Yeah.
So where do we meet? The middle ground is that I want this person to graduate and become relevant for the economy called Uganda.
Yeah.
So you, the employer, called New Vision, when you are hiring a journalist, what do you look out for?
Yeah.
So tell me the 5 things you want to see in any graduate.
Okay.
And how do I teach them? Because that's my practice.
Bring
So
reality to the need.
it's co-creation.
Yeah.
And so universities and any training institution needs to invest in that co-creation process.
Wow.
Yeah, it needs to happen. Having been at Makerere and doing the things that I was able to do, when I left Makerere, I was like, is there a possibility to design a degree program
Yeah.
that is able to, in IT, that is able to deliver a graduate who is responsive to the dynamics of this. And I was given the opportunity at Clark International University, so I was involved with another colleagues of mine.
Yeah.
We designed a program called the Bachelor of Applied Computing Technology.
Yes.
And that brings all the 5 facets that I talked about into
Yes.
one degree.
In computing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I then spent time trying to understand how our ecosystem is designed.
Yeah.
And I found there are basically 3 key components in our ecosystem.
Yeah.
Component 1 is infrastructure.
Yeah.
A lot of guys must be involved in infrastructure.
Yeah.
Component 2 is component 2 is applications.
Yeah.
Component 3 is business.
Which is very important.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the degree program is designed on,
A stratum of 3 things.
yes. At the
that
end of
all
the
work together.
3 years,
Yeah.
you will either come through the infrastructure piece,
Yeah.
and that could have servers, could have cloud, could have, or the applications, which is about
and
software
houses.
development and
Yes.
that kind of stuff. And then business is how you deal with technology to
Yes,
sell
yes.
technology. Yeah.
Wow. Which is what they're calling the business, the enterprise part of the
Thank
technology.
you. Thank you.
Wow. Well, it's a CEO Bench. My name is Eddie Okela, and of course, we're talking to Michael Niyitegeka, Refactory. If you haven't checked out Refactory, probably go onto their website and check them out. And of course, they are there to skill and to, close the gap in the education system. The CEO Bench is on this topic today, refocusing the discussion on how we can make our education system fit for our market. Michael, just before we go for another break, and something very interesting. I love another, message here from another Ugandan. Seems to be many Ugandans working in Germany now. Edwin says, I live and work in Germany, Eddie Okela. I now do my plumbing in my own house myself, living in Germany, because it's expensive to call that person to come and do that job, and they're extremely expensive. They're only hired by top big companies. So what Michael is saying, I like what Michael is saying about leadership. Now, can Michael break it down as a person coming from academia? What type of leadership is needed? Because we keep talking about leadership, but what kind of leadership? Can he break it down, knowing the intricate matters that lies behind these things that he's talking about? He's used some big English words right there, Michael. That's Edwin right there, coming from Germany, and thank you very much. And we want to encourage all of you guys to basically share as much as possible, send as much as possible what you have, and Michael will definitely, be able to answer it. Michael, dive into it.
Yeah, like I said, leadership that has that level of humility to appreciate that. You remember when I said when you complete senior 1, what should be able to do on your own?
Yes.
When you complete senior 4, what should you be able to do?
Yeah.
I went to St. Leo's in Fort Portal, and we had a meeting.
Yeah, we all went through that. In fact, I think this has improved. For us, we used to go for 1 year and literally and a half waiting for exams to come back before you go to senior 5 and senior 6.
So, and yet, that is the time when you repurpose these guys. That's when you give them these skills for life.
Done.
Yeah, but you see,
Yes.
the challenge with national service has already been attached to military.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be military.
Okay.
You can be part of a road construction. You can be part of, if they're doing lorries, you can be in the guys who are doing the dams. The essence is that you get to work on a life project
Yeah.
and you're deployed.
Yeah.
It could be, I was in Rwanda and the youth in a given community are required to have one project. And that project could be building a latrine.
Yeah.
That project could be building a classroom. That project, and they have to do it themselves.
And if somebody is going to supervise.
No, they supervise themselves.
Okay.
They supervise themselves. So that's the intentionality.
Yeah.
They're either going to tailoring school, like those 9 months. By the time you go to university,
Yeah.
you must have a certificate of completion. That you either did tailoring, you worked on a road project, you.
Come to think about it, Michael, when I was young, when we were finishing school, there was this thing called secretarial studies.
Yeah.
And whenever we would do senior 4, we would go for it. And we learned how to typewrite immediately. We learned how to, typeset letters and, write official letters and how it's addressed. That's how I learned how to put the heading of the letter when I'm addressing. If they're addressing a letter